The ice storm should have killed the child within minutes. The wind screamed like a living thing, tearing across the frozen plains with violent force. Snow flew sideways, sharp as glass, cutting into exposed skin and burying everything it touched. In the middle of that endless white hell, a small alien child stumbled forward, crying, but the tears never fell. They froze instantly against violet-blue skin, forming tiny crystals that burned worse than knives. The child's name was Kirael. Kirael's feet were bare. Each step across the cracked ice sent pain shooting up fragile legs. The planet Varnak 9 had once been warm, filled with glowing forests and silver rivers. Now it was nothing but ice and death. The storms never stopped anymore. The sky itself seemed angry. Kirael clutched a small metal charm to their chest, shaking hands barely able to keep hold of it. It was the last thing their mother had given them. "Run," she had said. "Don't look back." Kirael had run. Now their lungs burned with every breath. Cold filled the chest like poison. The storm erased footprints as soon as they formed, swallowing all proof that the child had ever existed. If Kirael fell now, no one would ever know. The child tripped. Small hands slammed into ice. Pain flared, then numbness followed quickly. Kirael tried to push up, but the body felt heavy, slow. The cold was winning. Eyelids drooped. The storm's howl softened into a distant roar. This was how it ended. Then, something impossible happened. Through the swirling snow, a dark shape appeared. At first, Kirael thought it was a hallucination. Cold played tricks on dying minds. But the shape moved with purpose. Tall. Upright. Walking into the storm instead of away from it. Fear jolted through the child's body. Stories flooded their mind. Stories of humans. Brutal. Unfeeling. Enforcers for the galactic dominion. Monsters wrapped in armor. The shape drew closer. A figure in thick survival gear pushed through the storm, visor glowing faintly. Heavy boots crushed ice beneath each step. A human. Kirael tried to crawl away, but fingers wouldn't respond. The charm slipped from numb hands. The human stopped. Slowly, carefully, the figure knelt. A gloved hand reached out, hesitated, then pulled back slightly, like the human was afraid of scaring the child. The visor lifted. Inside was a human face marked by exhaustion and ice burn. Dark eyes widened when they saw how small the child was. "Oh no, no, no," the human muttered. The voice wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was terrified. The human tore off a thermal cloak and wrapped it around Kirael, sealing warmth inside. The sudden heat shocked the child's frozen body. Kirael gasped weakly. "Stay with me," the human said urgently. "You're not dying today. I won't let you." Strong arms lifted Kirael against a solid chest. The human turned and began walking, straight into the storm's heart. Each step was a battle. Wind slammed into the human's body, trying to throw them off balance. Ice-coated armor and visor. Alarms flashed red inside the helmet. Warning. Core temperature dropping. Warning. Exposure level critical. The human ignored them. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. Time lost meaning in the storm. Kirael drifted in and out of awareness, hearing the human's breathing grow heavier, feeling the steady rhythm of a heart that refused to quit. At last, darkness swallowed everything. Warmth returned slowly. Kirael woke with a sharp breath, chest rising in panic. But instead of icy wind, there was humming. Soft. Mechanical. Heat filled the air. The child lay on a metal surface wrapped in blankets. Frosted walls surrounded them, glowing faintly orange from emergency lights. A small shelter, old, damaged, but alive. The human sat nearby, helmet off, hands shaking as they adjusted a heater unit. When Kirael moved, the human turned instantly. "Easy," the human said quietly. "You're safe." Kirael stared, fear and confusion swirling together. "You, human." The human nodded. "Name's Evan Cole." Silence stretched. "You didn't leave me," Kirael whispered. Evan swallowed. "No. Humans always left. Humans took." Humans destroyed. That was what Kirail had been taught. Why? The child asked. Evan didn't answer right away. He poured warm liquid into a small cup and offered it gently. Drink. Slowly. Kirail obeyed. Warmth spread through their body, painful but relieving. I used to work for the Dominion, Evan finally said. I helped them map this planet years ago. Helped turn it into this. Kirail stiffened. I quit, Evan continued, voice rough. Too late for a lot of people. But not you. Before Kirail could respond, the shelter shook violently. Metal rang. Voices echoed outside, sharp, mechanical, in the Dominion's language. Evan froze. They found us, he whispered. A scanner beam passed across the shelter wall, glowing green. Human presence confirmed, a voice barked. Alien juvenile detected. Kirail's heart pounded in terror. Evan stood. He checked his weapon. One charge left. Then he looked down at the child. I'm going to do something very stupid, he said softly. And very human. Outside, the storm howled louder. And the hunt began. The shelter shook again as something heavy slammed into its outer wall. Snow fell from the ceiling in thin white sheets. The heater flickered, then steadied, humming weakly as if aware it might be needed for only a few more minutes. Kirail clutched the blanket tighter, eyes locked on the sealed hatch. Outside, boots crunched on ice. Metal scraped. Voices spoke with cold certainty. Thermal readings confirmed, one voice said. Human male. One alien juvenile. Both alive. Evan cursed under his breath. He moved fast, grabbing a compact pack from the wall and shoving it over his shoulders. He checked the charge on his pulse pistol again. Still one shot. One chance. He crouched in front of Kirail, meeting the child's wide eyes. Listen to me, Evan said quietly. Whatever happens, you stay close. Don't run unless I tell you. Don't make a sound unless I say it's okay. Can you do that? Kirail nodded, fear tightening their throat. A loud metallic clang rang through the shelter as the hatch lock began to glow red. They'll breach in 30 seconds, Evan muttered. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small, dull grey sphere no bigger than his palm. He pressed it into Kirail's hands. If I fall, he said, voice steady but eyes fierce, you run south. There's a ravine about 2 kilometers from here. This device will mask your heat signature for a short time. It won't save me, but it might save you. Kirail's fingers trembled around the sphere. No, the child whispered. You come. Evan paused. Something unreadable crossed his face. Then he nodded once. All right. Together. The hatch exploded inward. Cold air rushed in as armored figures stormed the shelter, weapons raised. White armor reflected the flickering light, marked with the black insignia of the Galactic Dominion. Their helmets turned in perfect sync, locking onto targets. Human, the lead soldier commanded. Step away from the alien. Evan stepped forward instead. He fired. The single pulse shot struck the lead soldier's visor, shattering the optics in a burst of sparks. The soldier screamed and fell back, clutching their face. Evan grabbed Kirail and ran. Blaster fire filled the shelter, bolts tearing through metal and ice. Evan slammed his shoulder into a side panel, bursting through into a narrow maintenance tunnel he'd spotted earlier. They plunged into darkness. Evan ran blindly, boots slipping on frozen metal, guiding Kirail by touch alone. The tunnel twisted downward, away from the surface. Alarms blared behind them. Dominion soldiers shouted, boots pounding close. They're faster, Kirail gasped. Not smarter, Evan replied. He slammed his fist onto a panel as they passed. Old systems woke screaming. Steam blasted into the tunnel, obscuring heat signatures. The air filled with noise and confusion. They burst out into a wide underground chamber. It was massive. Ancient. Frozen machinery loomed like skeletons from a forgotten age. Rail tracks vanished into ice. Cranes hung motionless above, coated in frost. Evan slowed, scanning. This was a mining hub, he said. before the Dominion stripped it bare. Kirail stared, realizing what had been stolen, not just resources, but a future. Scanners buzzed behind them. Evan grabbed a flare and hurled it across the chamber. Bright heat bloomed, confusing the sensors. Soldiers split up, shouting, "Over there!" Evan pulled Kirail into the shadows beneath a collapsed platform. "Humans learn something early," Evan whispered. "We don't win by strength. We win by adapting." He tore open a control panel and rerouted power, flooding one section of the chamber with artificial heat while freezing another to lethal levels. Ice cracked violently. A Dominion squad ran straight into the supercooled zone. Armor froze solid in seconds. They screamed once. The remaining soldiers hesitated. "That shouldn't be possible," one barked. Evan smiled grimly. "Welcome to human engineering." They ran again, deeper this time, following a sloping tunnel that angled upward. Wind howled ahead, an exit. They emerged onto a frozen plateau under a raging grey sky. But waiting for them was a gunship. It hovered low, engines roaring, floodlights slicing through snow. A commanding officer stepped down the ramp, armor trimmed in gold. "Evan Cole," the officer said calmly. "You were always predictable." Evan stopped. Kirail felt his grip tighten. "You know me?" Evan asked. The officer laughed. "You helped design the planetary thermal grids. You taught us how to break this world. Did you think we wouldn't remember?" Evan's jaw clenched. "I remember every death." "Then hand over the child," the officer said. "Redemption is not yours to claim." Kirail's heart hammered. Evan stepped forward, placing himself fully between the child and the gunship. "No," he said. The officer tilted their head. "Then you die." Evan reached into his pack and pulled out the last thing the Dominion expected. A detonator. "You see," Evan said, voice loud over the storm, "humans don't just learn how to destroy worlds." He pressed the button. The ice beneath the gunship fractured violently. Charges Evan had planted years ago, forgotten by the Dominion, detonated in sequence. The ground collapsed. The gunship tilted, engines screaming as it slid sideways into the chasm below. The officer shouted in rage as the craft vanished into the depths. Silence followed. Wind roared. Kirail stared at Evan in disbelief. "You planned that?" the child asked. Evan exhaled shakily. "I hoped." Alarms echoed in the distance. More soldiers would come. But for the first time, the Dominion had lost the advantage. Evan knelt, meeting Kirail's eyes. "This isn't just about surviving anymore," he said. "This is about showing them something they forgot." Kirail swallowed. "What?" Evan smiled, a tired, fierce human smile. "That humans don't abandon children." Above them, the storm began to break. The storm did not end all at once. It loosened its grip slowly, like a wounded beast retreating into the sky. The wind softened from a scream to a low, angry howl. Snow still fell, but now it drifted downward instead of cutting sideways. For the first time since Kirail could remember, the world felt almost quiet. Evan did not trust the quiet. He guided Kirail down the slope of the plateau, away from the collapsed chasm and the destroyed gunship. Smoke rose faintly from the ice where the craft had vanished. Somewhere beneath them, Dominion soldiers were either trapped or dead. But the Dominion never stopped hunting. "We can't stay here," Evan said, scanning the horizon through a cracked visor. "They'll send scouts. Drones. Something." Kirail nodded, though exhaustion weighed heavily on every step. Their legs shook, not just from cold, but from everything that had happened. Fear. Loss. Hope. All tangled together. They reached a narrow canyon where jagged ice walls rose high on both sides, blocking scanners and wind alike. Evan activated a small beacon and wedged it into a crevice, then crushed it under his boot. "False signal," he explained. "It'll pull them the wrong way." Kirail watched closely. Humans were strange. Clever. Dangerous, but not in the way the stories said. They pressed on until they reached an old structure half buried in snow. Its surface was marked with faded symbols, almost erased by time. The door was frozen shut, but Evan placed a heat charge along the seal and waited. The door groaned open. Inside, the air was cold but still. Rows of consoles lined the walls, dark and silent. Thick cables ran across the floor like sleeping serpents. Kirail's eyes widened. This place, it feels different. Evan nodded slowly. Because it is. This was never Dominion. He moved to a central terminal and brushed frost away. Beneath it was an emblem, human-made, but old. A circle broken by a rising flame. A listening post, Evan said quietly. From before the occupation. Back when humans were trying to negotiate. Kirail tilted their head. Negotiate. We failed, Evan replied. But not everyone gave up. He rerouted power manually, connecting broken lines with practiced hands. The console flickered. Light returned, dim but alive. A voice crackled through the speakers. Unknown signal detected. Evan froze. Then he smiled. I was hoping you were still out there, he said. The screen stabilized, revealing a woman's face marked with scars and determination. Human. Older. Sharp-eyed. Evan Cole, she said. You look terrible. You should see the other guys, Evan replied. Mara. I need help. Her gaze shifted. She noticed Kirail. Her expression changed instantly. You brought a child into this. I saved one, Evan corrected. And now the Dominion wants them more than ever. Mara's jaw tightened. Of course they do. She leaned closer to the camera. You need to understand something. What you did, destroying that gunship, it sent a signal. The Dominion thought humans were broken. Scattered. Afraid. Evan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. They're wrong, Mara continued. And they're about to remember why. The screen filled with data, maps, signals, intercepted transmissions. All across this sector, Mara said, Dominion patrols are reporting system failures. Sabotage. Resistance. Humans you inspired without knowing it. Kirail stared at the screen, heart pounding. This is because of us, the child asked softly. Mara smiled gently. Because of a human who refused to walk away. The ground trembled suddenly. A low hum filled the structure. Evan cursed. They've found us. Mara nodded. I'm rerouting power to overload the listening post. It'll wipe your signal and fry their scanners for a short window. What about you? Evan asked. I'll be fine, she said. I always am. The screen went dark. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. Dominion transports. Multiple. Evan grabbed Kirail's hand. Time to move. They escaped through a rear tunnel just as explosions rocked the structure behind them. Fire and ice burst skyward, swallowing the listening post in light. They ran until their lungs burned. At last, they reached the edge of a vast frozen valley. Below them, faint lights flickered, small, hidden settlements carved into the ice. Kirail gasped. My people. Evan nodded. Refugees. Survivors. The Dominion never found them. As if summoned, figures emerged cautiously from the shadows. Aliens of different shapes and colors. Worn. Tired. Alive. Fear flickered when they saw Evan. Then Kirail stepped forward. He saved me, the child said clearly. When the storm tried to kill me. Whispers spread. A tall alien with silver markings stepped closer. A human. Yes, Kirail said. And he fought the Dominion. The alien studied Evan for a long moment. Then perhaps, they said slowly, humans are not what we were told. Evan felt something shift inside his chest. Something heavy lifting. Above them, the sky cracked with distant thunder, not from a storm, but from engines moving in panic. The Dominion was mobilizing. And for the first time, it was afraid. The valley was alive in a way the Dominion had never understood. Hidden beneath layers of ice and stone, The refugee settlement stretched farther than Evan had imagined. Warm light glowed behind reinforced crystal panels. Narrow walkways connected shelters carved directly into the rock. Heat vents breathed softly, powered by systems that should not have worked anymore. Yet they did. Because someone had made them work. Kirail walked beside Evan as the survivors gathered. Alien faces watched him with caution, curiosity, and something new, hope struggling to rise after years of fear. "They will come in force now," the silver-marked leader said. "What you did disrupted their control grid. They will not forgive that." Evan nodded. "Good. We don't need forgiveness." He looked around the settlement, studying the equipment, the scavenged power cells, the jury-rigged heat lines. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't clean. It was human. "You've survived by hiding," Evan said gently. "That ends today. Not because you're weak, but because hiding keeps you alone." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A younger alien stepped forward. "The Dominion has fleets. Weapons. Armies." "So did every enemy humanity ever beat," Evan replied. "They all made the same mistake." "And what mistake is that?" the silver-marked leader asked. "They believed humans only fight when ordered." Evan activated his wrist unit. A holographic display flickered to life, projecting the valley and surrounding terrain. Old Dominion supply routes glowed faintly. Weak points blinked red. "I helped build their systems," Evan said. "I know where they cut corners. I know where arrogance replaced caution." Kirail watched as alien engineers leaned closer, eyes widening. "These storms," Evan continued, "they're not natural anymore. The Dominion stabilized them to protect their bases. We can reverse that." Fear spread instantly. "You would unleash the storms?" someone asked. "No," Evan said. "We would aim them." Silence followed. Then Mara's voice crackled over the unit. "Hello, everyone." Gasps filled the chamber. "Human resistance cells across 3 systems are listening," Mara said. "You're not alone anymore." The map expanded, revealing dozens of hidden signals. Humans. Scientists. Engineers. Former soldiers. Farmers. All connected. "We don't have fleets," Mara continued. "We have ideas. And we share them freely." Kirail felt something warm bloom in their chest. The Dominion attacked at dawn. Gunships screamed across the sky, their engines cutting through cloud and snow. Troops deployed in perfect formation, advancing toward the valley with mechanical precision. Then the ground shifted. Ice fractured beneath their boots. Wind patterns changed suddenly, violently. Snow surged upward in controlled spirals, blinding sensors and freezing joints. Dominion formations broke. Human-made devices hidden beneath the ice activated, redirecting energy flows. Supply lines collapsed. Communications failed. Above it all, a single signal repeated across open channels. "This world is not yours." Evan stood beside Kirail at the valley's edge, watching chaos spread. "They're retreating," Kirail whispered. Evan shook his head. "No. They're learning." A massive shadow moved within the clouds. A Dominion command cruiser descended slowly, weapons glowing. The silver-marked leader stiffened. "That ship can burn this valley to nothing." Evan smiled grimly. "Only if it can see us." He activated the final protocol. The storm surged upward, wrapping the cruiser in blinding ice and electromagnetic noise. Its weapons failed. Engines stuttered. Human voices flooded open channels, not threats, but instructions. Solutions. Coordination. The cruiser began to drift. The Dominion commander's voice finally broke through, filled with disbelief. "This is impossible." Evan leaned toward the transmitter. "No," he said calmly. "This is humanity." The cruiser crashed harmlessly into the outer ice fields, disabled but intact. The valley erupted in sound, not screams, but cheers. Kirail looked up at Evan, eyes shining. "They're running." "Yes," Evan said softly. "And they won't stop." For the first time, The Dominion understood something terrifying. Humans did not need permission to fight. They only needed a reason. The valley did not celebrate for long. Humans knew better. Victory was never an ending. It was a moment, fragile, temporary, between danger and consequence. As the disabled Dominion cruiser lay half-buried in ice fields, emergency signals screamed across space. Other fleets would hear them. Other commanders would react. But something had already changed. Kirail stood at the highest overlook, watching the sky as clouds slowly thinned. For the first time in their life, the storm did not feel endless. It felt wounded. Below, humans and aliens worked side by side. Engineers reinforced heat shields. Scouts mapped new tunnels. Medics treated injuries without asking what species anyone was. There was no command hierarchy, only shared urgency. Evan watched it all quietly. "You started a war," Mara said beside him through the wrist unit. Evan didn't look away. "No. I ended one lie." She smiled faintly. "Same thing, usually." Kirail approached, holding the small metal charm, the last piece of their mother. "They're asking about me," the child said. "Why the Dominion wanted me." Evan crouched so he was level with Kirail's eyes. Because symbols scare empires more than weapons. Kirail frowned. "I don't understand." "You survived," Evan said. "In a place designed to kill you. And a human chose you over obedience. That breaks their story." Above them, the sky flickered. A Dominion transmission cut through every channel. Public, private, encrypted. This time, it was not a threat. It was a demand. "Human forces," the voice said stiffly. "You are ordered to withdraw and surrender the alien juvenile for containment. Continued resistance will result in planetary sterilization." The valley went silent. Kirail's hands trembled. Evan stood. He opened a broadcast channel, wide and unfiltered. "This is Evan Cole," he said calmly. "You're not speaking to an army." The Dominion voice snapped back. "Then you will be erased." Evan smiled. "You already tried that." Mara's voice joined in. Then another. Then dozens more. Humans across the sector opened channels simultaneously. Farmers. Pilots. Scientists. Old soldiers. Young engineers. One by one, they spoke, not with anger, but clarity. "You don't own children. You don't own worlds. You don't own us." Data surged through Dominion networks. Evidence. Logs. Proof of forced labor, planetary destruction, erased species. Human archivists had been collecting it for decades, waiting. Kirail watched in awe as the valley screens filled with images from other worlds. Other children. Other storms. Other humans who had said no. The Dominion voice wavered. This is illegal." Evan answered softly, so was freezing a child to death. The transmission cut. Moments later, new signals arrived, not Dominion. Independent fleets. Neutral systems. Alien coalitions long silenced by fear. They had seen the broadcast. They had chosen. The Dominion cruiser in the ice powered down fully, surrender protocols activating without orders. Across the sector, patrols halted. Some retreated. Others shut down entirely. Empires depended on certainty. Humanity had shattered it. Days later, as rebuilding began, Kirail stood beside Evan at the edge of the valley. The storms were still there, but weaker, controlled, no longer cruel. "What happens to me now?" Kirail asked. Evan didn't hesitate. "You live." The silver-marked leader knelt before the child. "You are welcome here. Or anywhere." Kirail looked up at the sky, then at the humans working below. "I think," the child said slowly, "I want to help." Evan smiled, pride tightening his throat. Far above the planet, news spread faster than any fleet. A single message echoed through the stars. A human saw a child freezing, and chose to stand. The Dominion would never recover from that choice. Because the most dangerous thing in the universe was not a weapon. It was a human who refused to walk away.